Hello everyone, Nina here with Waffle Flower. I'm excited to share 2 cards with you using the first kit for our sneak peek club. You should have received the bunny ears die, 2 shaker cover samples, the layered bow stencil, and the bonus sentiment piece. You can trim the sentiment piece into size with a paper trimmer, but I highly recommend the sub-sentiments die that can help you cut them out all at once. Here's the retail packaging for the oval shaker covers coming with our February release. There are 5 pieces per pack. You will find the perfect die for both covers in our nesting ovals die. If you like a little bit more texture, the largest die from the nesting stitched ovals also works with the large oval shaker cover, but not the small one. This is actually what I'm going to use on my first card. If you don't have dies that will work, I will share a workaround at the end of this video. I cut out the oval shape in white cardstock so I can stencil in the cute layered bows for the background. The stencil is designed for vertical pattern that I will have a little bit of blank on the left, but that's okay. The bunny ear die cut will cover it well. Let's start with stenciling the background. The stencil mat and the ink pen holder is a match made in heaven. They are a total game changer for me. They make me want to stencil more every time I use them. Okay, I'm going to start with stencil number 1. You can find the number in the top right of the stencil. I bought these highlighter tape for holding down my dies. They have quickly become my favorite. You can find them in our store under Fun Finds. I'm adding the tape to the back of my paper, leaving about ½ inch hanging off. Once I like the position of my stencil in paper, I will smooth out the tape to the back of the stencil to hold it down. I have a heavy hand, and I do not want the stencil to shift during blending. The shader brush number 3 is the biggest size we have in our collection, and it's my favorite. You can apply ink in narrow places by using it on its side. You can also dab on the side before going on paper to soften the edges. And when you want to have well-defined edges, for a pattern stencil like this, using the white tip of these shader brushes feels like a dream. Instead of dabbing on the side, dab right next to the edge of the design on your stencil. Then go over a few times to push the colors off the edges and into the openings. Where you first started is always going to be the darkest, so I recommend spend a little time before you pull your brushes down to figure out where you want to start. For these front part of the bows, I want them in an even color, so I actually blend it in from all 4 sides. The shader brush number 1 is just the right size for the circles on the stencil. I'm using 2 colors. It's very helpful to alternate the colors as you go, because this is a no-brainer to figure out when you don't want the same color close to each other. Let's move on to stencil number 2. I always clean my mat with a baby wipe in between layers. The tape was getting in the way, so I removed them and added them back after I have the patterns lined up. We're moving back to the pink and blue inks. On this design, I know it's always darker where the knot is, which is the center of the bow. I started by dabbing in the center and then smooth out the ink, push the ink out on both sides. I was going for dual tone bows, but I made a mistake by using the same blue ink on this bow. It turned out pretty cute, so I didn't start over. Look at that. All the depth and dimension with just 2 simple layers. I love stenciling. Well, I love die cutting too. Let's die cut our focal point. I cut all the pieces out in white cardstock for the bunny ears. I'm going to use the narrow edge of shader brush number 3 to color the tips of the inner ear pieces. A post-it note is always helpful. I used the adhesive side to hold the small die cut pieces in place when I'm blending. In a flicking motion, I quickly colored the tips with the pink ink left over on the brush tip. I left the rest of the pieces in white and glued them together with some liquid adhesive. The inner piece with a white tip goes on the left. The curves matches up perfectly for a folded ear. There is a small piece that goes on the bunny ears. I was not going to use it, but it does provide a finished look, so I added it in. So cute. I'm going to use the bow die cut included in the bunny ear set to create some shaker elements. The die makes bows that are a little bit smaller than the stenciled bows, but they are the same design. I like the bows with a darker back layer and lighter front layer, so I'm going to make the die cut bow in these colors. I cut the bow pieces out 6 times. They're grouped in one die so I get both pieces if I change my mind. I separate them into groups and will color them with the same inks. To quickly color small die cut pieces, I love using our blending brushes. Start by going directly from the ink pad to the die cut and blend in a circular motion. Holding down the head of your brush will help hold the die cuts in place. This is the easiest way I found to achieve a nice, even coverage. Look at the perfect coloring on the edges. You can just use the full bow silhouette pieces, but if you're going for the layered look, remember to adhere the front pieces down when they look like this. Isn't it cute? Here's another quick tip using our stencil mat. You can squeeze some glue directly on the mat, then use the die cut pieces to pick up the glue. If you pick up too much, dab it off on the mat to remove the excess. I do this a lot to keep my hands on the die cuts the whole time, instead of picking up and putting down the glue bottle every time. It's also easier to control the amount of glue that goes on the die cuts. A little bit goes a long way. You can also use the tip of your scissors or a craft pick to push out the excess glue. If I was doing this off camera when I could see straight down, I actually prefer leaving the back of the bow laying flat on the mat, then add the front of the bow to it. Try to see which way works better for you. You can clean the glue off your stencil mat easily with some baby wipe. Just remember to go in one direction and don't rub in circles. To make the shaker, we will need to flip the oval to add adhesive on the back. I'm using a double-sided tape that is about a 1/4 inch wide. Just go along the edges on the back of your design, tear off whenever needed. Don't remove the backer on the tape yet. This is one of the reasons I don't use liquid glue for this. I don't want to be worrying about the glue drying when I'm trying to align the shaker cover. So here's our shaker cover. I usually remove the protection film on the shaker covers before folding back the tabs. Remember, the side with the protection film is the outside of your shaker pocket. All the tabs fold around the edges of your die cut to the back. Once the die cut is in place, I will remove the backer from the tapes. These shaker covers are ultra shine and smooth. In other words, the surface is slippery for paper. I want to share an easy way to keep the die cut in place when folding back the tabs. Fold down one tab in the middle of a long curve. See if you have shifted, adjust the position, then fold down one tab in the middle of the opposite curve. Now your die cut is fixed in place. All you need to do now is to hold it down in the center and fold the tabs to the back and adhere to the exposed tape. See that I left the backer on one piece of the tape? It is the opening for adding shaker elements. It's a reminder for me to not fold down all the tabs. I'm adding the bows I made along with some sequins. I always feel less is more with shaker cards. We need to leave room for the shakers to move, right? If your shaker elements get stuck around the edges, you can gently push them off to the center with the craft pick through the holes along the edges. This also means that your shaker elements need to be bigger than these holes. And bunny ears to the front, perfect. I'm going to use the Some Bunny Loves You sentiment from the bonus sentiment strip for the kit. I always tape my die down to the paper to avoid shifting during die cutting. I was going to make a shaped card, but wanted to add a background color for more contrast. The finished card size is 4 1/4 by 5 1/2, a standard A2 size. We have customers asking us how to mount the shakers to cards. I usually just use liquid glue in the center and let the edges kind of float. I love the dimension it adds. I usually add my sentiment the last to make sure they look straight. We have two sizes on our foam strips. The wider strip is perfect for these sentiments, but in case you ran out of them, you just need to double up on the narrow strips. They tear off easily. I rotate my card 90 degrees so I can see the sentiment strips when I'm putting them down, or my hands will be in the way. If you worry about keeping them parallel, a great solution is to adhere them at different angles and make them look intentional. Ta-da! Our first card is done. Before I move to the next card, I just wanted to show you quickly that you're not limited to just use the positive die cuts from the bunny ears die. See how cute it is to back it up for a silhouette. Now the small oval shaker. You will have to use the nesting ovals die for this. It's the 8th largest die in this set. If you don't have this die, I have an alternative for you at the end of this video. I'm going to put the bunny ears on the oval as if it was on an egg. I found this scrap piece of pattern paper and cut the oval at a slight angle. I'm going to make a mini Slimline card. I have a few shaker elements from Studio Cadia, and the colorful pinwheels on the right is perfect for this card. Again, add tape to the back of your paper, remove protection film from the shaker cover, line them up, and fold back the tabs. Remember to leave an opening for your shaker elements. Isn't this cute? You can put almost any sentiment on top. I'm going to use the 3rd largest die from the additional mini Slimline layer set. Tape it at an angle to the cardstock before running it through the die cut machine. This helps prevent warping on dies with narrow bases, such as the nesting layers die. I added the leftover pattern paper piece to the back of this blue panel for pops of color, and for using up all my scraps so nothing goes to waste. I cut my paper to 7 inches by 6 inches and scored at 3 1/4 inches lengthwise, so my finished card is 3 1/4 by 6. The shaker cover rises up about 1/8 inch above the card base. I added foam tapes to the back of my bunny ears to help raise them up as well. My next step is to sprinkle on some of the fun pinwheel shaker elements on the card base and glue them down. This fun. Now, let me show you my workaround if you don't have the nesting ovals die. Just use the shaker cover as a template. Use a pencil to mark down the rounded corners where the tabs folding back, like this. Then try to connect the little markings into an oval. We are going to cut inside the lines, so it doesn't need to be perfect. See how I'm rotating the paper rather than rotating my scissors when I'm cutting? This will give you most control of where you are cutting into. It won't be as perfect as a die cut, but it will work. If you purchase the full pack of the shaker covers, you can trim off tabs on one piece and save it as a template. Just make sure that you're cutting inside your markings. I'm actually leaving a gap of 1/16 an inch to make sure there is room for the tabs to fold back. Fun, isn't it? Thank you for joining me today. I hope you enjoyed this video and I'll see you again soon.